It is 7 o'clock on the 4th of May, 2020. This is Darren Marchant with American Nomad News in Chandler, Arizona, and it is approximately 96 degrees at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's still sunny out, but the sun's going down quick. So, another random installment. I'm thinking about doing some cooking and haven't quite figured out what I want to cook yet, but I have instant rice and I have a brand new giant can of fuel. The other one ran out, and I keep looking at the bottom of this thing, which is a beautiful parabolic shiny mirror-like surface, and I know the can says don't puncture and don't do this at home, but when I empty this thing, I'm gonna take one of these and cut the bottom off. So I'm thinking I can make a wonderful little Wi-Fi antenna. I don't know, it's a project idea for the future. There's all kinds of things I haven't thought about, all sorts of warnings I should give you. But just a little hint to the future, or something I might give a try to. Please put some comments put something in the comments if you have any ideas about how to safely take this apart. I have my own ideas. I've done a lot of shop stuff. I've done a lot of crazy wild projects that are normally considered dangerous, and if I had filmed them at the time, I'd have put the same disclaimers up that says don't do this at home, because if you hurt yourself, you obviously weren't qualified. So, you guys, if you've watched my channel, you've seen this little gadget. Ding! And recently, I had some problems. I had it leaking right around the base of this thing where it's not supposed to leak. And there's two O-rings. There's this one black one there that you can see that's still extant, and there was one. There's still a little piece you can see, a little black dot in there that's still there, and it doesn't want to come out. Give it a try. And it was a big problem. It was leaking, dangerous, and burning, and scary, because kerblowy, kabloom, kaboo up, blow up. Very risky. Always, when you're working with camping equipment, don't expect that stuff to stay working properly forever. Keep an eye on that stuff. If it flames out, if it starts to do something funky, you get rid of that flame and you turn that thing off and you take it apart and you do whatever you got to make sure it doesn't blow up on you. Oh boy. Uh-oh. 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 We have problems, Batman. It's not working proper. It's leaking and spitting, and I may have some troubles here. It's leaking bad. It is leaking bad, and that O-ring is squishing out like it's not supposed to. And look at that. Wow. No wonder this guy gave this to me. And here I am warning you that it was a problem. But it seems like I have managed to get it to quit doing that. But look at that. See that sticking out there? That is not proper. That is super dangerous. And I can still smell a lot of that, so I'm going to let the wind, and there's really not much of a breeze right now. I'm going to let that air out for a little bit before I attempt to start that thing up. That is a major safety issue. You've got the styrofoam thing, right? And if it's sitting too close to this while this is on, that's another safety hazard. There's a ton of safety hazards with this thing. Where have we? Now, I've got inside here is my pot, and I've been attempting to not have to throw away some of that frying oil and get just a little extra use out of it, because I am out of cash for the moment and down to not having any olive oil. Let's see if there's any left in here. It doesn't really feel like it. Yeah, there's a little bit. There's a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter mixed in there, and a little bit of, it's used a little bit. So this is pretty much going to be the last, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to cook it in such a way that I just soak up the last of that oil into what I'm cooking. I have some rice, raisins, coffee, butter, bananas, mayonnaise, big block of ice, and mini ravioli, which I'm thinking of cooking up some rice, putting a little butter in there, and throwing the ravioli on top of it. I also have some potatoes. The birds are making noise a little bit there. A little bit of potatoes. And I have a can of chicken with a magnet stuck to the top, just because it's there. I have some anise, which I may use as flavoring. This is good stuff. And it actually has medicinal uses, which I think during this COVID time is important to talk about. It is it's not a decongestant. It is and there's another word for it, and I can't think of it, and I'll think of it in a minute. Expectorant. And it has saved my life. I'm not kidding. After I got pneumonia in Dutch Harbor many years ago, I was told by the doctor that my lungs would be weak for life and I would catch a flu just at the drop of a hat, and you know what? He was right. But I did my research and I found out that anise is a traditional treatment for lung congestion. And I knew I was going to be broke. I also found out that it's actually a main ingredient in a lot of cough syrups, along with alcohol. And not wanting to drink alcohol or have that in my system, I decided to start making tea with the anise. And you can actually cook with it. It's good in sausages, it's good in cakes and cookies. It's got a lot of uses. It's a wonderful flavor. Some people don't prefer it, but it's kind of like a lot of herbs and spices in that it's not quite as good completely by itself. It really kind of needs something else in there. So what I'm going to do here in a second is I think I'm going to cook me up some rice and let that olive oil and stuff just get cooked right into that rice. I don't have just regular water, so I need to see, should have a little can that I use for a drinking cup in here somewhere. I don't, apparently. I don't. Darn it, I don't have it. That one's sitting in the dirt. That's a problem. How am I gonna, I've got a block of ice, as you can see there. And that block ice is nice because it takes longer to melt, and and when it melts, it leaves behind drinkable water, which is really nice because it's nice and cold. And I'm gonna, ooh, that's not super clean. Don't do this at home, kids. You might get COVID or any number of millions and billions of other viruses. It's one of the things that I think is important for people to understand. Yeah, wash your hands. Yeah, be careful. Yeah, be cautious. Don't let it destroy your relationships. And don't let it destroy your enjoyment of life. That's just a waste, dude. Seriously. There's a lot of stuff going on that, quite frankly, doesn't make a lick of sense. That politicians and stuff are using COVID as an opportunity to manipulate society, to do things that they want to see done, and this is just an excuse for them to do it. And we should really watch out for that. We shouldn't get too paranoid about it, but we should push back. and we should do so in a obnoxiously reasonable way that doesn't give them, the passive aggressive kids, any room to give us a hard time about stuff. So here I am, I'm scooping it. There's about a 1/4 inch layer. I'm using the lid of the ice chest, it's cleaner, as a catch basin for the meltwater from this big block of ice. And I'm slowly putting that into the cooking pan. And I'm going to take some of this instant, I got some of this parboiled rice. It's almost top ramen. It's like top ramen noodles. You don't have to do too much to it. It just puffs right up. Uncooked rice, regular rice, is, man, it takes some significant cooking to get that to go. And that means a whole lot of time and heat in order to do something with that. And I don't really have that luxury most of the time. So what I do is I get that instant rice, and we're going to experiment and see if I can't cook up a little bit of rice and throw something on it, like maybe this can of chicken. I haven't quite decided yet. Rice and chicken, a little butter. There's already some olive oil in there. Maybe some anise. Might work out. I don't know. We're going to experiment. We're going to see what's up. There's something else I'd like to introduce you to. Now, I forget what this is called, because it's actually a cousin of a smaller device. Okay. And this one I'm not super happy with, but it looks exactly the same shape, but bigger than what's called a P38. It was developed during World War II, and I actually found the original factory on Google Earth. It's now a military surplus store. The problem is although this one's bigger, a little easier to handle, it's made of inferior metal. And the one made during World War II was made of good old-fashioned steel. And it stayed sharp, and it worked continuously. But this one, you can see there's a little hook right there, okay? And that little hook, I don't need it for this particular thing because I've got that kind of lid, but that little hooks underneath, right underneath that edge there. And then you use that as leverage to break that seal and use it just like it's a can opener. But if you find a regular steel P38, it'll look like this, but it'll be a little smaller. This is got a different number. It's P something, I forget what. Has this little hingy piece. It looks just like this thing, but it's a little smaller, and it's made of steel. And usually it looks dark. It's got a dark color. The metal has a dark color to it. And those, man, do not lose those things. I was really pissed when I lost mine about, 3 or 4 months ago. And I've been looking for one ever since. And I come across a couple of these, and they don't last. They're just not very good. They're made in Taiwan or China or something. They got U.S. stamped on them, but ever since the U.S. military switched over to those backpack sea ration stuff, they don't use cans hardly anymore. They don't distribute these. But they are a homeless essential item. This is Darren Marchant for American Nomad News. I know this was kind of random. Please put some comments and questions in the comment section. Like and subscribe, because I'd really like to know more about what you're interested in as far as what it's like to be homeless and to be an intellectual kind of guy out in the world studying. Thank you very much.